Welcome to CallumConnects, 5-minute entrepreneurial inspiration for your day. Today's guest on CallumConnects is Josh Patrick. For over 40 years, Josh has been obsessed with what makes a private business sale ready.
A hurdle I faced when I was growing up as a small and young entrepreneur, or private business owner, as I prefer to say, was learning to stop blaming and justifying my way through life and start taking personal responsibility for what happened. When I first got in the business, for my first 3 or 4 years, I would literally scream at somebody every day because they made a mistake. It obviously was their fault and not my fault. And along the way, what I learned was that if you are going to become a good manager, or a manager at all, where people trust you and will do things for you, not try to sabotage you behind your back, you have to start taking personal responsibility for what goes on in your life. Now, the reason you need to do this is because if you ever want to become a delegator, and you can never grow a business to any size if you don't become a delegator, is you need to be taking responsibility for the actions of the people who report to you. Now, I know this is hard for a lot of folks to understand on why they need to do this, but the truth is, if you don't take responsibility for the actions that happen with people under you, you're not seen as authentic and you're not seen as being trustworthy. So what you need to do is that once you're taking responsibility, when you delegate, and the way you do this appropriately is, and you can't do this unless you're willing to be personally responsible. You can't blame others and you can't justify your way through life, because the truth is they're going to make mistakes. And when people make mistakes, we have to make sure they learn from those mistakes. So what does this have to do with delegating? Well, let me make it really simple for you. What this has to do for delegating is when you delegate an activity or job or function to somebody else, you're asking them to do a job. So you're setting up an expectation. Now, that expectation will or will not be held out correctly. Now, I can almost promise you that the first time you try to learn how to delegate, it's not going to work very well. So you set the expectation. That's the first thing you do. The second thing you do is you inspect to make sure that the thing that you delegated was done properly. Now, this is the phase where if you're not being personally responsible, you can never learn to delegate. Because when you inspect, there's a pretty good chance the first time you check up on what's being done, you're either going to check up too fast or you're going to check up too slowly. And that's not the job of your employee to figure that out. That's your job. So if you're going too fast, you're going to be seen as a micromanager, and you'll have to back off from that. But if you go too slowly, which is what most people do, there's going to be a mistake that's likely to be made. Now, you have the choice of blaming the person that made the mistake or asking that person, what did you learn? When you ask that person, what did you learn, you're showing respect and you're being on their side of the table, not on the other side of the table. And finally, you get to the point where you get to accept or reject the work that's been done. Now, if you reject, you go back and start over. If you accept, you move on with your life. So that was the biggest lesson I learned, was being personally responsible allowed me to start down the road of how to become a good manager, learn how to delegate, and ultimately become operationally irrelevant in my business.
To receive a complimentary copy of the Progressive Partnerships book for entrepreneurs on Kindle or audiobook, plus loads of other goodies at the intersection of investing and small business, go to callumlang.com now.